charm, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to base hit. Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick, you'll have to brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball has marked the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. It's hit goodbye. 1 out.
Bases loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. Get in the city.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program. I'm Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting. Gorgeous day here in the upstate of South Carolina, and we're glad to have you here with us. I had to take just a millisecond there to remind myself it was Wednesday.
Yeah, I always got to double-check that one, Dan.
And not Tuesday, because I was out yesterday, had a little family thing that I had to tend to, but happy to be back today. All is well, and we've got a good show lined up for you today. A lot of stuff to get to, including our usual look at what's going on here around Furman's campus. We'll have some trivia for you coming up here in just a moment. Dave Glenn joins us at 10:25 to talk all things ACC, and, of course, Force Three Things, which will include some Major League Baseball playoffs, and we'll probably try to find a way to get some college football news and notes in before the show is done as well. But a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the great time of year, Dan. Got so much different games going on. You have the NBA just tipping off last night. You have Major League Baseball going on. You have college football. It's just a great time to be a sports fan in general.
Yeah, and, I do not follow the NBA anywhere close to what I used to. I still, though, keep tabs on what the Celtics are doing because I've been a Celtics fan all my life, and you spend all that money on Gordon Hayward in the off season, and 6 minutes into his first game, he suffers just a devastating leg injury.
Yeah, one of the more horrific injuries that I've personally seen.
I refuse to watch it. I really do. After, and of course, this is well before your time, but after the Joe Theismann leg snapping in half on Monday Night Football and the hit by Lawrence Taylor, and ABC showing that thing in reverse angle, slow motion replay, and everything else that they did, I just don't have the stomach for it. Sure. I can't even stand to watch somebody twist an ankle.
A lot of people compared Hayward's injury to that Theismann injury last night.
I didn't even want to hear it. It was just a fractured tibia and a dislocated ankle. So
fractured ankle.
Yeah. Whatever.
Sure. that medical mumbo-jumbo.
It went some way it wasn't supposed to go.
That is correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So it didn't even get to play a regular season game at home. And, goodness knows what that rehab is going to be like and what kind of player he'll be when he gets back. But just tough to – I would say tough to watch. I didn't watch it, so tough to hear that happened. But like everything else in life, you press on and see what you can do moving forward. How was your day yesterday?
Oh, it was great, Dan. Got some good practice in for my GRE test next Tuesday. And also the Yankees had a historic comeback yesterday against the Astros, so that was a lot of fun to watch. Overall, it was a great day for me, Dan. How about yourself?
It was good. Good. Got to spend some time doing some good work as far as the family was concerned, some things that needed to be done, and a little sore because there was some physical labor involved. But outside of that,
get a good stretch in,
I mean, I know it's hard to tell by looking at me, but I could use a little more physical labor in my life. But in any event, it was a good day yesterday. Got some things done that needed to be done. Let's go ahead and get right to the Furman news and notes.
Let's do it.
Want to do that?
Absolutely.
See what's going on.
Starting with the men's soccer program, goalie Jonathan Smith was named Furman ScanSource Student Athlete of the Month for September. He has a 3.7 GPA, so congrats to Jonathan. And also, it was a big win for the men's soccer program last night. They defeated Mercer 2-1 in overtime, and in the 95th minute, Danny Kearth stepped up for a free kick about 23 yards away, put his left foot to it, and banged it inside the right hand of the upper 90 corner. So it was a huge win for the Paladins. Their second consecutive win, which brings them to 3-2-2 in the SoCon, which is they definitely needed that win in order to position themselves for the down stretch of the last 3 games of the year, to have a good chance at finishing in the top 2 or 3, hopefully.
And just a reminder that the Southern Conference men's soccer tournament is
in Greenville, South Carolina,
right here on campus,
Stone Soccer Stadium. Cross country, the men move up 3 spots to number 7 in the country in the latest national rankings. The women moved up 10 spots to number 11, so they just continue to show their dominance in and around the Southeast and all across the country. In volleyball, they will host Wofford tonight at Alley Gym at 7 o'clock. So obviously a big game against the crosstown rivals from Spartanburg, so come out and support your Lady Paladins at Alley Gym this evening.
All right, good stuff. Trivia. Where are we going?
We're staying with some Furman football. So obviously we have P.J. Blazejowski with 12 touchdown passes so far this year. Not quite on pace for a record, but we'll see if he can get that. And my question is, which Paladin quarterback has thrown the most touchdowns in one season, and how many?
Okay, what Paladin quarterback with the most touchdown passes in a single season, and how many? Good question. We'll let that one simmer for a little while, and at the end of the program, we'll get the answer. If you think you know it, leave your guess in the comments section, Facebook Live, Twitter, or you can just hit us up here on Twitter at Dan Scott Show. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff to get to as we go through the course of the program. As mentioned, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to come back, start with some Major League Baseball playoffs, and get that in before we chat with Dave Glenn. And then we'll do things 2 and 3 after the Dave Glenn interview segment. But before we go out to break, just another reminder about our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company, located in Cherrydale Plaza, just down the road from campus. I was there this morning for breakfast, as is usually the case, and talking to Jeff Massey, the owner. And he asked me, he said, is this week homecoming at Furman? And I said, yeah. He said, well, that makes sense. He said, because of the sudden spike in catering orders they have for this weekend. People know where to go when there's a big event and quality food is required. They're going to the Atlanta Bread Company, and Jeff and his folks there, as I tell you all the time, do a fantastic job. You're going to hear more about them in this commercial set. We'll take a break, come back, and talk some Major League Baseball and check in on the championship series in each league. One suddenly is a series, and the other is almost over. We'll
fly that L flag.
We'll get into it when we come back on the other side. This is the Dan Scott Show. Back in just a moment.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
We are just getting things cranked up here this morning on this Wednesday edition of the Dan Scott Show. Still to come, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com, and among some other things that we'll talk about, although not necessarily in his 3 things. Maybe if we have time, some college football news and notes, because there are some very interesting things that are going on. Want to quickly remind you about CPR cell phone repair, located right down the road in Cherrydale Plaza. You see the number there on your screen, 282-9097. If your phone screen is cracked or busted, then do what I did. I took my iPhone over to CPR cell phone repair. They say they can get them done in an hour if it's an iPhone. They got mine done in about 30 minutes, in fact. They do iPhones, they do every other kind of phone, almost any brand, any make, any model, and usually can get it done same day. They also sell refurbished phones and tablets. They can sell you brand new accessories for those phones and tablets. New owner in Janet Culver, so stop by, see her today, and tell them, please, that you heard about them here on the program. CPR cell phone repair, Cherrydale Plaza, 282-9097. All right, so I'm going to imagine that we're going to start with the American League.
We have to, because that is the story of the night. It's the lead in any kind of story you start with if you're going to talk about baseball, I'd say. But before that,
you've got the defending world champs on the cusp of being eliminated.
But with the comeback down 4-0, I think that handily takes the cake there.
And the fact that you're a Yankee bandwagon front-running flag waver doesn't have anything to do with it, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. But before that, I want to say this. Carlos Beltran is the first player in the modern era to play for one team in 2 different leagues in the postseason. So that's just an amazing stat
Houston,
there. Yeah, so that was really funny to see that. But moving on, the Yankees scored 6 unanswered runs to beat the Astros 6-4 and even the series at 2 games apiece. Both starting pitchers dominated the game through 5. Sonny Gray for the Yankees and Lance McCullers for the Astros. And Lance McCullers' dad actually pitched for the Yankees from '89 to 1990, so that was pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. The original Lance McCullers.
Exactly, yeah, senior. But where was I? Houston got to Gray first in the 6th inning with a walk, a catcher's interference, and another walk, and then Yuli Gurriel hit a bases-clearing 3-run double to left, and they added one more unearned run in the 7th. So 2 of their 4 runs were unearned. So the Yankees had 3 errors on the evening. But Aaron Judge woke up the Yankees offense with a 427-foot home run to center field, 111 miles an hour off the bat, which is the hardest hit ball in the postseason this year. Then Didi Gregorius followed that up with a triple to left center, and then Sanchez hit a sacrifice fly to right to put the score at 4-2. Heading into the 8th inning. Then after a 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 8th by Chad Green, the Yankees bat stayed hot, scoring 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning. Frazier and Headley led off with a single. And did you see what Chase Headley did coming around first base last night? He kind of stumbled a little bit, stumbled again, then finally was able to get to second base just before Altuve was able to tag him out, because instead of going back to first, he decided to go to second, which you don't really see too often, because Correa was coming in and he just lobbed the ball to first base and was not quick with the ball, and so he's able to get to second base on the lackadaisical throw by Correa. I thought that was pretty one of the bigger plays of the evening that might not go that will go unnoticed. And then Brett Gardner hit a 4-3 RBI ground out to put the game at 4-3. And then Aaron Judge, once again, another one of them baby bombers, hit a long double to left field to tie the game at 4-4. And then after a DD single, Gary Sanchez cleared the bases with a 2-run double to right center field on a hit and run, by the way, which you don't see too often as well, to right center field. So overall, a great night for the Yankees and the baby bombers, because Judge and Sanchez had 5 of the 6 RBIs in that game.
If Houston blows this 2-0 lead, and the series is even now at 2-2, but by blowing it I mean loses the series. I mean, it's been a phenomenal year. There's no question about that. But their issue, if they've had one all season, has been their bullpen.
Oh, yes.
And at the trading deadline, they either did not or were not able to do anything to supplement the bullpen. Now, here's my question about that, however. When you get into the playoffs and you get into a 7-game series, you really only need 3 starters.
That's true.
Why not put your 4 and 5 starters into the bullpen as opposed to going with, at the very least, a 4-man starting rotation like most teams do now in
I think
a 7-game series?
They kind of did that because they have Colin McHugh in the bullpen, and Lance McCullers was able to pitch in the bullpen in the ALDS, and Joe Musgrove did the same thing as well. So they kind of did already do that.
But they're still going with a 4-man starting rotation, right?
That is true. But I think they had to do that last night with the way that the rest set up for Dallas Keuchel.
Well, used to be that in the postseason, starters would pitch on 3 days rest or 2 days rest or whatever. I
think you'll see that
whatever the case may be
in game 6 and 7. So I think you just have to save your bullets for when you really need them.
I mean, there are ways to get around some of your bullpen issues because, again, you definitely don't need 5 starters in the postseason, and in most cases, you don't need 4 the way the schedule breaks if you've got your pitching lined up right. So, but anyway, that's the one thing Houston did not do, and that is really address its bullpen coming to the trading deadline at the end of July, and here in the postseason, it may be coming back to haunt them a little bit.
Oh, yeah, last night, Lance McCullers only allowed 1 hit through 6 innings. Then after that, that Astro bullpen allowed 6 hits and 4 extra base hits. So that just goes to show that your bullpen must be strong, able to finish these games in the postseason because you got to need more than just your starters. And the last time that the Yankees came back to win down 4+ runs in the playoffs was that great series of 2003, the ALCS Game 7 against Boston, when Aaron Boone hit that walk-off home run in the 11th inning off Tim Wakefield. So that was just really good sight to see, not only if you're a Yankees fan, but a pure baseball fan, because that comeback was pretty historic, and you won't see that too often, down 4 runs in the score. 6 unanswered.
I think there are a lot of pure baseball fans who are Yankee haters who did not like what they saw yesterday.
I think you're probably right, but I think the true baseball fans will put their hatred for the Yankees aside and say, "Hey, this is a great comeback."
No, they won't. They can appreciate the comeback for what it is, but they will never put their hatred of the Yankees aside.
That's what I'm saying. They'll appreciate the comeback for what it is.
But you said they would put their hatred for the Yankees aside. They ain't gonna do that.
Well, I guess I was saying they have to do that in order to appreciate the comeback. But
no, you don't.
All right, fair enough.
I can appreciate what the Cubs did last year and still hate the Cubs. I don't have to put my hatred of the Cubs aside.
But I think you're doing that in order to appreciate what they did.
No, I don't. I mean,
right.
they had a great year. They came back from 3-1 in the World Series. There's no denying that. But that doesn't mean that I like them any more than I did when the season started a year ago.
I'm not saying that you are.
I'm not
right.
setting it aside.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I hate them even more than I did when it started.
That's the way you look at it? That's fine.
That's exactly the way I look at it.
All right. The NLCS, the Los Angeles Dodgers take a commanding 3-0 series lead after a 6-1 victory last night. The Cubs got on the board first with a Schwarber home run to the opposite field in the first inning. Then Andre Ethier, who only played, I believe, in about 25 games this year, had a game-tying home run in the second inning. And then Chris Taylor added another home run in the third. Then the Dodgers added single runs in the 5th and 6th. Chris Taylor hit a triple and scored in that inning. Then Darvish got an RBI because he walked Carl Edwards, threw him 4 straight balls to walk in another run. So that was kind of odd to see. And then they got 2 more in the 8th. But just another great performance by Yu Darvish. I think in the first game he pitched 5 innings of shutout or 1-run ball. In this one he had 6 1/3, 6 hits, 1 earned run, and 7 strikeouts. Only gave up the 1 home run to Schwarber.
You know, and that's been an issue with the Cubs really a lot of the year, and I think it's been even magnified in the playoffs as they've been relying far too much on the long ball and not manufacturing runs again like they did a lot last year, and their bullpen is not pitching nearly as well as it did a year ago, and So that's all kind of caught up with them here in the playoffs. You know, they were very average or slightly above average for a good portion of the regular season, and then seemed to get it together in a bit in the last couple of months, enough to win that Central Division. But right now, I mean, who knows? We have at least one case on record where a team has come back from a 3-0 deficit in the postseason.
Oh, yes. We'll see if we can get that again. I'm not sure if that those cards will align.
And chances are they won't. And I'm in fact, I'm going on record right now saying that they won't. This has just not been the same kind of magic that they had.
Yeah.
And look, we've talked about this a dozen times down the stretch of the season. It's difficult as the reigning champs to recapture what you did the previous year. There's just that's why so few teams repeat. That's why no team in the National League has repeated since the Reds did in 75 and 76. If it were easy to do, every champ would do it.
Exactly.
And it's incredibly difficult to do. So they are on life support now.
Yeah.
See if the Dodgers can take care of business.
Yeah, they just look really flat. They have no of that edge that they had last year. So they're going to need to spark something very magical in order to come back. Personally, I think they're going to get swept tonight in Game 4 and in that series rather quickly.
What's the pitching matchup tonight?
Who is the pitching matchup tonight? I'm not sure. I don't think it's Kershaw. Let's check that out. Alex Wood and Jake Arrieta. So I think Arrieta's going to need a game like he had a couple years ago in the wild card game when he really shut down the Pirates. Something like that, because can really stay away from that Cubs bullpen. Maybe just bridge the gap between Arrieta and Wade Davis and no one in between. But if Arrieta's not going to have a good game, I think the Dodgers will win this one pretty easily.
We are getting ready to find out.
Oh, yes.
So there would be some sort of poetic justice and strange satisfaction if the Cubs were eliminated on their own home field.
I'd enjoy it, Dan.
You and me both. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have Dave Glenn up with us to talk all things ACC. And, you know, Dave, during the entire length of this North Carolina investigation, putting his lawyer hat on, Dave said time and time again that with what the NCAA was trying to charge North Carolina with, they were going to have a difficult time in making that stand. And it turns out he was right. Doesn't mean that we like it anymore, and doesn't mean that North Carolina State or North Carolina didn't benefit. But the way the charges were or the allegations were set up, ultimately they couldn't pull the trigger on it. And Dave said that had a chance to be the case all along. We're going to talk to him about that and much more involving the Atlantic Coast Conference when we come back in just a moment. You are watching and listening to The Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097.
Stuck in a state of falling
Give it
behind?
CPR today.
Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state. state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
All right, 10:25 straight up as we welcome you back to the Dan Scott Show here at Powell Stadium in the radio booth overlooking the visitor stands out towards Paris Mountain. Just a brilliant day. Looks like fall has finally gotten here. It's been chilly the last couple of days.
It has. I'm not sure if it's going to warm up anymore, but we'll see if it does in the next week or so.
We'll find out. Forrest has kind of at least halfway surrendered. He's still wearing the shorts, but he went with the little overcoat or the little sweater type thing today.
Very tiny cloth there, Dan.
All right, let's head to the celebrity guest line and welcome in the chief cook and bottle washer of ACCSports.com, the host of the David Glenn Show throughout the state of North Carolina, and fast food entrepreneur or not entrepreneur, but connoisseur. That's the right word. I'll get it right in a minute. He's at a drive-through somewhere, basically. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Dan. Good to be with you all again.
Just the time you get your food, you can't eat it because it's time to talk sports here on the show. You had over the course of I was trying to think the other day. This investigation in the North Carolina went on so long that you and I talked about it on at least 3 different platforms that I hosted over the years. So this has been going on for a long time. And the one thing that you were consistent with is that the way the allegations were framed, you thought the NCAA was going to have a hard time actually pulling the trigger on sanctions because of that netherworld that the academic allegations were in. And it turns out you were right.
Well, I'm glad we had those conversations over the years, Dan, because I'm not sure many in the media understood the legalese, if you will. And it really led a lot of people who dislike Carolina to expect something like the death penalty because they had read that this expert or that had called it the largest example of academic fraud in the history of NCAA athletics. And when they saw no penalties at all, that, of course, came as a shock if those were the only people you were listening to. It does have to do with legalese. I totally understand and respect those who say that this does not pass their common sense test, right? How can so many athletes and non-athletes benefit from these dysfunctional, ridiculously easy classes with suspiciously high grades? Isn't that a competitive advantage for UNC in various sports? I totally get the common sense test. However, just like in the criminal justice system, if you were the district attorney and Forrest did something wrong and you had to prosecute him, you can't go into that courtroom and tell the judge, hey, judge, common sense tells us that Forrest is just a bad guy. And think of all the stuff that he's done. So let's put him away because just common sense tells us he's a bad guy. You can't do that. You have to provide evidence. Well, he violated this law, and here's the evidence that we have that he violated this law. And the law says that if you violate this law, here's the penalty. And much like that in the NCAA justice system, you simply can't go in and say, common sense tells us we have to figure out a way to hammer the Tar Heels. It doesn't work that way in that context either. That's why I had, especially these last 3 or 4 years, where it got into the details of the AFAM scandal more so than UNC was punished for all those football players who were taking money from agents. That dates back 7 years at this point.
Right.
But the academic part of this was not as simple as some in the media and some self-proclaimed experts thought it was. And it came down to me a question of, was the NCAA going to try to stretch its rules to places it has never stretched them before and try to make a poster child out of the Tar Heels somehow and come up with some logic to penalize them? Or were they going to stick to the legalese? Were they going to stick to their bylaws and their precedents? And they chose the latter. That surprised some people, and it angered other people. But Carolina's certainly happy to turn this page, and the rest of us are stuck wondering, what role can the NCAA have? What role should it have? What role do the member schools want it to have? Because when you boil this down, Dan, as strange as it sounds, the NCAA cannot and has not penalized schools for insanely easy classes or insanely dysfunctional classes. They've penalized athletic departments and teams when athletes did no work, or when tutors wrote the papers for them, or when professors gave the athletes answers to the tests. All of those things have been and will continue to be punished by the NCAA. But this bizarro set of facts in Chapel Hill did not meet any of those definitions, and it really boiled down to insanely easy classes that required only a single paper at the end, but everybody handed something in, and the NCAA has not been asked by its member institutions to begin telling individual universities that this amount of work was not enough to get credit, or that amount of dysfunction made it not enough to get credit. And that's why this case fit a really weird corner of the NCAA rules universe. And guys like Jay Billis and me, who have legal backgrounds, were two of the only people who really saw it coming this way.
A couple of things off of that. When the news broke, we were on the air. Forrest and I were here, and we're trying to digest this as it happened last week. And the one thing that I questioned then, and still question to a certain degree now, is in the early part of the statement that was put out by the NCAA, it said that while the student athletes clearly benefited from these courses, so did other students. It wasn't set up just for student athletes. And my question to that would be, so what? It may not have been set up specifically for them, but it's obvious they were steered to that class. Why did that not carry more weight?
Well, because steering, it gets back to that bridge that the NCAA can't cross. Once UNC decided, and internally, this is before the NCAA got involved, internally UNC had a decision to make. Was this level of dysfunction so severe? Were these classes so easy with such suspiciously high grades, where the paper was often graded by a secretary instead of the professor or the chairperson? Does that reach a point where UNC internally was going to tell all of its students, athletes and non-students, that in retrospect, you don't get academic credit for that class? UNC chose not to do it that way. And that matters. As the NCAA statement said, to a degree, they have to follow a university's lead when it comes to defining the NCAA's version of academic fraud. And once you define those classes as dysfunctional or ridiculously easy, rather than classes that credit should not have been given for, well, then the NCAA loses launching pad for penalties. Because if all you're doing is steering athletes to a ridiculously easy class, or a ridiculously helpful professor, or a class that is listed as a lecture class that meets regularly but is executed as a class that requires only a single paper at the end of the semester, once you say that it's not a class that credit cannot be given for, well, then all the athletic tutors are doing is steering them toward what the NCAA has to view as ridiculously easy classes. That's never been against NCAA rules. There are cases at Michigan and Auburn and elsewhere where the percentage of athletes was like almost 90%. And there was an independent studies professor who had so many athletes in a single semester that his colleagues said there's no way legitimate learning took place there, right? If the regular independent studies professor has 25, I'm just making these numbers up, 25 students in that class, this guy had like 400, and 90% of them almost were athletes. Well, everybody knows the designed level of learning when those classes were created certainly was not executed that way. And yet, what did the NCAA say in the Michigan case? You got to act like a university. This is not a matter for us to have jurisdiction. If you want to let that athlete-friendly professor have that ridiculous amount of athletes to that ridiculous percentage, and all they had to do is, read a book and hand in a paper that might have not been any good but got a suspiciously high grade anyway. If you want to let that happen and you want to stop acting like a university that the rest of us should respect, well, that's on you. But our bylaws don't cover it very well. And because of what I just described, they ended up in a similar predicament with the UNC case. You heard the chairperson. He said they don't like what happened. We all know it stinks to high heavens. But when it's simply a ridiculously easy class where everybody handed something in as their own work, the NCAA's never crossed that bridge before, and they weren't ready to do it in the UNC case.
So what happens now, if anything, with the organization that is charged with the accreditation of a university? Because North Carolina has been put on I guess, academic probation by that organization, for lack of a better term. Are there any further repercussions coming from that, or is that part settled as well?
That's dragged on so long that I believe Carolina has already served its probation period. If not, the probation period will be over soon. The NCAA case did not give that accrediting organization any new information. Mm-hmm. So it's called SACS, S-A-C-S. That's where UNC and a lot of other major universities get their accreditation. SACS already went through its own investigative process years ago at this point. And they only had three options. One was some kind of public reprimand. One was to take away the accreditation of a major university, which is sort of their version of the death penalty. And then the only other tool in the toolbox that they had available was the probation, and they chose probation. And Carolina has gone through a lot of self-study and come up with a lot of changes to their approach to academics, including with athletes, and that was part of their agreement with SACS to get past this scandal and, at this point, to get past their probation period. So this is truly case closed for Carolina. There are no more repercussions for the NCAA. If this case had gone the other way, there would have been an appeal and there would have been lawsuits. I know that because I know how UNC was lawyering up on this matter. But it's case closed with SACS. It's case closed with the NCAA. There were a couple of individuals who were sanctioned by the NCAA, but they're not even really athletics people, and that's why this is truly a matter that's game over.
Hey, Dave Forrest here. Pretty big weekend in the ACC in terms of football. Syracuse beat Clemson. Miami just snuck by Georgia Tech, and Boston College upset Louisville. Can you talk about last weekend's football games for a minute or two?
Yeah, I think where we are, Forrest, is, at least in my eyes, we're back where we started in the Coastal Division. I thought it would be mostly about Virginia Tech and Miami. The Hurricanes are one of only 6 Power 5 unbeatens in the entire nation, and obviously they're undefeated in conference play, so they're still in the mix thanks to those close wins over Florida State and then Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech is 5-1 and playing really good football. So when Miami and Virginia Tech get together soon, that one will go a long way toward determining the Coastal. And then the Atlantic, I think the only way we're in a different place than most of us thought we would back in August, we would be back in August, is that NC State has replaced Florida State as the main competition for the Clemson Tigers. And we've been over the DeAndre Francois injury and the other reasons why the Seminoles have fallen by the wayside. But just as in the Coastal, you can look forward to Hokies Hurricanes as a head-to-head. I know here in North Carolina, a lot of folks are looking forward to Clemson NC State at Carter Finley Stadium on the first Saturday of November. We're going to be there for that. It's one of the bigger games. Clemson's used to playing these kind of games, under Dabo Swinney especially. This is one of the bigger games in NC State's modern football history, and they still have to go to Notre Dame before they host the Tigers. They're in a bye week right now. So it's, in a sense, 3 of the 4 players are exactly who we thought they would be. But NC State replaced Florida State. The Wolfpack is a really, really good team. It'll be interesting to see from the Clemson perspective how their quarterback situation looks by the time that game rolls around. But certainly they're two of the better teams in the ACC right now.
Syracuse travels to Miami this weekend. Any way we see another upset by the Qs?
I don't think it's out of the question. You know, Miami deserves credit. It's a crazy impressive list of Power 5 unbeatens. I don't think the Hurricanes are as good as the Alabamas of the world. I don't even think they're close to that point. They're in year 2 of getting closer to where they want to be in the Mark Richt era. He's happy at his alma mater. He's recruiting well. He has a pretty strong front seven on defense. He has a first-year starting quarterback in Malik Rozier who's playing well and certainly has come up with clutch plays when needed. But he lost his star running back, Mark Walton, for the season to an injury. That Florida State game easily could have gone the other way. That Georgia Tech game easily could have gone the other way. So I don't think this is a King Kong pound-your-chest version of the Miami Hurricanes. Give them credit because they're one of those 6 Power 5 unbeatens, but I'll be surprised if the Hurricanes remain in that particular plateau for long. Syracuse has a shot, but I think there are more dangerous games lingering on the horizon for the Hurricanes, including that head-to-head against Virginia Tech.
Continue to visit with Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, and the David Glenn Show, which is syndicated throughout the state of North Carolina. I want to kind of circle back a bit to where we were at the start of the program. On the same day, and literally just within a couple of hours after the North Carolina news came down last week, the NCAA also issued a ruling on a freshman by the name of Braxton Beverly at North Carolina State, ruling him ineligible for the 2017-2018 season. And the backstory, of course, is that he went to summer classes in May at Ohio State. He was an Ohio State commit and signee, I guess, and Thad Matta was fired, so he transfers to NC State, wants to play there immediately, and the NCAA says no. Following, obviously, the letter of their law, but it's a bad look when you've got all this stuff about the academics at North Carolina, and then the popular line is, here's a guy who's ruled ineligible because he went to class at Ohio State. So does Beverly have any hope of an appeal? How do you see this case?
Yeah, it's on appeal as we speak. It's hard to guess whether he'll be successful or not. It was not hard to guess how the original ruling would come down. And I know people are tired of me saying this, and I've been saying it for 30 years. But there are always 2 different conversations, Dan. One is, what should the rules be? And the other is, what are the rules? And in the UNC case, I understand those who want the rules to be different. But your member institution repeatedly voted against giving the NCAA that kind of supervisory power over the nitty-gritty of academic details. So we're stuck with what the rules are, and as we discussed earlier, they applied poorly to the Carolina scandal. Similarly, there is nothing at all preventing NCAA schools from voting in an exception to the usual 1-year transfer sit-out rule as applied to somebody who didn't even play in a game, in this case, Braxton Beverly at Ohio State, didn't even get to play for his coach, who, as you mentioned, stepped aside during the offseason, but had enrolled at Ohio State. So the letter of the law is, you're not just a recruit getting out of his letter of intent. You're already an Ohio State student. You are considered a transfer to NC State, and that's why the 1-year sit-out applies. Just as NCAA member schools in our time together have voted in an exception for graduate transfers, right? If you have a diploma from your old school and you have a year of eligibility left, you're immediately eligible. There's no 1-year sit-out. That was not, a bunch of old men in a cigar smoke-filled room saying, hey, let's conspire in favor of graduate transfers. That was member institutions saying this is a deserving exception to the usual rule. When we were younger, if player X wanted to move closer to home because grandma or mama was sick or in the hospital or dying, there was no waiver for that guy. In 2017, there is a waiver for that guy. They changed that rule. they could easily change the rule that says, hey, in this set of circumstances, the guy does not have to sit out. It is their fault that they didn't change that rule. NC State itself was in the room while various exceptions to the transfer rules were being discussed. So we don't know what the Wolfpack's opinion was, but we know not enough people had the opinion to make that one more exception to the usual transfer rule. So again, it gets back to what do you think the rules should be? And most of us in Braxton Beverly's case say, let the kid play. But we're stuck with what are the rules? And the rules clearly say he's a transfer and he has to sit out. Those complaining the most should write letters to their universities saying, why haven't you inspired another exception to the transfer rule? Because it's your fault that we don't have this exception on the books.
Yeah, Thursday, I think is when all this happened last week, was not a good public relations day for the NCAA.
That's an understatement. They tend to take a PR beating most of the time. And obviously they're taking another one on that NC State case. And among those who just have the cocktail party knowledge of the UNC scandal, I totally understand why they're being described as the toothless, powerless organization that emphasizes student-athlete, but then was essentially powerless when it came to enforcing the student part of that equation at UNC.
Yeah. By the way, before we wrap this up, I was watching Twitter. I guess it was Thursday and maybe Friday, and saw some things from your Twitter account as you were explaining all this on the air on your show. How many names have you been called by people up in the Triangle area?
I'm used to it. Well, you know it's nice, Dan. I've always viewed it as the 90% and the 10%.
Yeah.
The 90% are saying, you know what, Jay Billis of ESPN and David Glenn of ACCSports.com are two of the only people who've been explaining this correctly for 4 years. And they were proven right with the decision on Friday. That's the 90%. There's always going to be the 10% in life who are mad at you for whatever reason. I'm not even sure how I'm the bad guy. I'm the one who described it correctly. It was proven right. So somehow some people just torture the truth and they take lazy, ignorant, cheap shots. That's just how it goes when you have a public position and a large platform.
Yeah,
so I just keep moving.
Most of the 90% don't call talk radio or act anonymously on the internet. So
the good news is it's the 90% that have allowed us to expand our platform for 30 straight years.
Yeah, and the other 10% are what Cobb Oxford and I have made a living calling the lunatic fringe.
Amen, brother. I always tell the lunatic fringe this: when the restaurant is full and you call it a lousy restaurant, you're the one who looks stupid, right?
Yeah.
You might not like that restaurant. You might have had a bad experience there. But if you're saying that's a rotten restaurant and yet it's filled every night and it's one of the most popular in town, you're the one who looks like an idiot for calling it a rotten restaurant. It applies in the sports journalism world as well. When we've been growing for 30 years or you've done your thing for so long and you get the lazy, ignorant, cheap shot artist, you just say, hey, you're the guy screaming about how bad the restaurant is, while the restaurant's owner is laughing at you from his yacht in the Caribbean because his restaurant is filled every night. And there are a lot of happy customers out there who aren't quite as loud and obnoxious as the lunatic fringe tends to be.
Words of wisdom. Tell us how people can find how people can find more of what you're doing there, Confucius.
ACCSports.com is always the place to be. At David Glenn Show. I especially encourage interaction with thoughtful, intelligent, fair-minded people, and I reserve the right to take shots at those who fall short of that particular bar.
and yet he has done my show for probably 16, 17 years. Go figure. Hey, David, as always, my friend, good to have you on. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Dan. Forrest, enjoy
Thanks,
the games.
Dave.
Talk to you next week.
All right, that is Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. Let's take a break, come back, and quickly get through things 2 and 3 and put a wrap on the program here. This is the Dan Scott Show. We'll return in just a moment.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. We are back, final segment of the program here. Good to have you with us. Thanks to Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, for joining us. Just interesting to hear his take on these things, and he was consistent over the years in explaining why this was going to be difficult for the NCAA to pull off, and basically what it comes down to is that the NCAA member institutions are the ones who make the rules, and if they want to give the NCAA that kind of latitude over their own academics, they're the ones who have to make the rule to allow them to do so.
Absolutely. I think it also comes back to North Carolina and how they are just falling short of the standards they set for themselves a long time ago in terms of academics.
Yeah, well, and I think, and look, Dave doesn't make any bones about this, and everybody up there knows he's a North Carolina grad.
Sure.
He's a Chapel Hill grad, but I think he's embarrassed by what North Carolina did, as he should be. And I think he made a very good point.
Oh, yes.
And there's a line there. We all have this idea of what the rules should be.
Yes.
But the NCAA and the law and everybody else has to operate with what the rules are.
Yep.
And North Carolina was just in enough of a gray area that there wasn't an application. So who knows?
Yeah. It's
what you do now moving forward is hope the member institutions will take a closer look at this and maybe, I'm getting ready to say this, and at the same time, I don't know if I want the NCAA to have.
I'm in the same boat as you, Dan.
It's really a
double-edged sword.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Because you want schools to be accountable for what they do and call them why they call themselves schools, but at the same time, you don't want to give too much power to the NCAA to enforce those rules because that's not their area of expertise. Essentially, that's more of the school's doing. So and that's what you want them to do is have onus on themselves to do the right thing and not just have the focus of being good at a certain sport over academics.
See,
and that's what happened here.
And this is how foolish the people in North Carolina are. They spent $18 million in legal fees to muddy the water, and Force and I just did it in 30 seconds for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just call us next time.
We could have done it significantly cheaper than $18 million. All right, what do you have for us here? Let's quickly things 2 and 3.
Thing 2, Rick Pitino has sued Adidas a day after being unanimously fired from Louisville. The lawsuit seeks unspecified actual damages, punitive damages, plus attorney fees. The lawsuit goes on to read that Pitino has never authorized, tolerated, participated in, or otherwise condoned giving improper benefits to recruits or players or to their families, especially as an inducement to have recruits join the University of Louisville men's basketball program. The lawsuit says it's about more than just money. It is Coach Pitino's vehicle for proving that he had nothing to do with Adidas' outrageous, wrongful, and illegal conspiracy. But Adidas fired back and said that Mr. Pitino's lawsuit is clearly a reaction to his termination yesterday and is without merit. And it also says that Adidas has a ton of interest to go after these top players because it'll not only help them the cause of it, but once they go to the NBA, but at the same time, Pitino has the same interest essentially to go after those players because it's a revolving circle essentially is what it is. So they have the same interests at hand, but different motives to go about their interests. So I think this is just a way for Patino to kind of put the blame on somebody else, essentially.
Well, he's not going to get his job at Louisville back.
Oh, I don't think he's going to get any job in college basketball.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that you'll see him coaching at the collegiate level again because of the fallout of all of this. The more intriguing thing to me, beyond what happens between him and Adidas, is going to be how much of that $44 million buyout he ends up getting from the University of Louisville, because Louisville's board, when they fired him yesterday, they voted to fire him with cause, which means they're trying to get away without paying him a thing, not dime one of $44 million. And his lawyers obviously believe that he is deserving of all of that $44 million. So where will the middle point, or the meeting point, I guess, be? To me, that's much more intriguing than anything that happens between him and Adidas.
No, I agree with that, James. I think this Adidas thing is not going to go anywhere because they're not going to be able to prove that Patino was not involved in this, because he was the head man of Louisville, and he is essentially in charge of the people below him, and that, I think, in itself right there kind of puts him as in charge.
That's the one thing. You look, on one hand, I understand that if you're in charge of a large organization or corporation, that there are going to be people who do rogue things. Rogue people are going to do rogue things, and sometimes you don't have any knowledge of that. Okay, I understand that. But at the same time, when you are a head coach at a university and those rogue people are the assistants on your staff, whether you quote-unquote had knowledge of it or not, you're still responsible, because you're the one hired them, and you're the one responsible for the overseeing of that program. It's one thing if you've got a rogue booster running around doing things that nobody knows about, supposedly, but it's something else when the assistant coaches are the ones who are doing it. One, it's very hard for me to believe that Patino had no knowledge of any of this stuff, including the previous thing that was between Louisville and the NCAA with the strippers and everything else. But even in some fantasy world, if he did not have any knowledge of it, he's still responsible because he is the head coach of the program.
Of a staff of 5 or 6 or 7 people, you have to know what they're doing and why they're doing that almost at all times, because that is the sanctity of your program, essentially. So if they do something wrong, that's going to come back to you, because you are in charge of those people. So
and the way I look at it, as a father, do you know what your kids are doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? No, especially when they get older and they're teenagers. They're going out, there's a trust factor there, and they're doing things that teenagers do. But if they go out and they break a law, or they wreck the car, or they do something that causes harm to somebody else, even though I didn't know anything about it, who's going to be responsible for it? I am. Because my name is the one that's on the contract, or on the insurance, or on the car note, or on whatever. I'm responsible for that idiot teenager of mine who went out and acted like an idiot.
The first thing they're going to do is call you, Dan.
That's right.
So
just like when I did something idiotic, the first people the police called when I was a senior in high school was my dad.
Absolutely.
So
I'm right there with you.
Fortunately, that's all they did. They just called my dad and said, "Come get this guy before
get him out of here.
Before we have to do something we don't want to do."
Oh, that's good stuff.
It's one of the advantages of living in a small town. So anyway,
thing 3.
That's where we were going.
Undefeated UCF will battle Navy this weekend, and that means a triple option. So that's pretty tough to scout. But it's easier when you have a former option quarterback on your staff. Scott Frost, a coach for the UCF, who played at Nebraska and rushed for 1,000 yards in his final season for the Cornhuskers, will be the scout team QB, trying to emulate Zach Abbey, the Navy QB.
He's a Heisman Trophy winner.
Was he really?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize that. That's unbelievable. So, there you go. It's just a pretty cool story, and goes to show that coaches can do things on the field as well.
Yeah, just hope he doesn't pull up. First time he goes down the line, hope he doesn't pull a hammy.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, he was a really good option quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Really good option quarterback. So that's pretty neat, though.
Oh yeah.
Nobody on your team could do it, but hey, we got a guy here. We got a guy here. Let's let him.
40 years old.
Yeah,
just strap him up.
Just don't hit him.
There you go. Get him that red jersey.
Oh, that's pretty good. What do we have for on this date?
All right, we got a few. 1950, Connie Mack retires as the A's manager, Philadelphia A's. He's 87 years old. He managed for 50 years, and he founded the A's in 1901, and that was the inaugural year of the American League.
Yeah, I made this point last year when Vin Scully retired. This baseball season right here is the first baseball season that we have had that did not include either Connie Mack or Vin Scully.
It's pretty incredible stuff.
In the modern era, and even before the modern era, because Connie Mack played back in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Cornelius McGillicuddy, by the way, is his real name.
Okay, Cornelius.
Cornelius McGillicuddy. But this is the first baseball. Think about that now. This is the first baseball season, 2017, that did not have either Connie Mack or Vin Scully in it, since in the modern era, which would be 1901 when the American League came in, but really even before that, back into the early to late 1880s.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
That's unbelievable stuff, Jay. That goes to show just the long-lasting love that those two men had for the game of baseball. 1955, Ralph Kiner retires. 1967, the Kansas City A's moved to Oakland to start the 68 season. 1977, Mr. October is born. Reggie Jackson belched 3 consecutive home runs in Game 6 of the World Series, and they're all on first pitches, believe it or not. And in 1992, the first World Series game is played in Florida. The Marlins win 7-4.
That should be 93.
Is it 93? Could have wrote that down wrong.
Because where was it 92? See, what the Braves lost to the Twins. Yeah, it should be 93. Braves lost to the Twins in 91, and they lost to the Blue Jays in 92.
Oh, excuse me.
Right?
It's 97. I can't read my own handwriting. It's 97. My mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think about it, because 93 was the Marlins' inaugural year. I don't even know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's just bad handwriting right there on my part. So, 1997, to clear that up, folks. 97.
And when we're on the road, folks,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And Forrest is a spotter, this is what I have to deal with when he writes me notes about things and hands them to me.
How about next time
if he can't read his own handwriting, how am I supposed to read it?
Maybe I'll just start saying these notes out loud myself instead of having to pass along.
But even that you got
Morse
it wrong.
code. Yeah. But this is small writing. Small writing. That's what that is.
Somebody shoot me now. What else we got?
That's all we got for on this date.
All right.
Trivia question. The topic is Furman football, and the question is, which Powden quarterback has thrown the most touchdowns in one season? Any guesses, Dan?
My guess was going to be one of two people. It was going to be either Jordan Sorrells or Chris Forcier.
One of those is correct.
Is it Forcier?
That is correct.
2011.
Your first year.
My first year.
23.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
There you go. All right, that's going to wrap things up for today. Good to be back in the saddle after missing yesterday. Tomorrow on the show, we will start some college football countdown stuff, some games to pick,
yes.
And hopefully, if his schedule allows, Doug Allison.
Oh boy,
we missed him late last week. We got him in early with the with McNeil Cronin and Quinn, But hopefully Doug will be able to be with us tomorrow, and we'll see what else we can get into. But a lot of college football tomorrow, and starting to really hone in on homecoming here on Saturday for Furman and Mercer. Big, big, big game. And by the way, before we go, if you have not seen the story that Hunter Reed wrote about the lifelong friendship and the ties shared by Clay Hendricks and Mercer head coach, and, of course, former Furman Paladin coach and Furman player Bobby Lamb. You need to check that out at FurmanPaladins.com. It is a fantastic piece of work. It's good stuff and a great storyline here at the stadium on Saturday. All right, we will see you here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, I'm Dan Scott for Forrest. God bless you. So long, everybody.